All right, folks, welcome. Welcome again. We bid you welcome to Inside Life with Davey Cretin, my co-host here. Welcome.
Hello. Am I
And
just a crazy guy? You bet.
yep, and show us your shirt. Stand up a little bit. As you can see, the shirt he's wearing, that is the artist we are going to rank the top 10 tunes. Yes, Ozzy Osbourne's top 10 solo hit tunes. And man, let me tell you, this was not easy to say the least.
I
Um,
agree.
Man, it really was tough. Give us your introduction to Ozzy Osbourne and how you found out about him, came to know of his existence and everything.
Well, as everyone knows, Ozzy Osbourne was a member of Sabbath for over a decade. He left the band, he came back. Then they finally kicked him out because he just wasn't up to par anymore. But none of the band were really up to par in the late 70s due to overindulging in the rock and roll lifestyle, let's say. So Ozzy was holed up in a hotel room in California, and his manager from Sabbath was Don Arden, and Don Arden passed him off to his daughter, Sharon Arden, who was his manager. And she's the one who helped rehabilitate, so to speak, Ozzy and get him into shape for touring, playing, performing, forming a band, the Blizzard of Oz. Originally, the band was supposed to be the Blizzard of Oz. Sharon is responsible both for good things and bad things in Ozzy's life. She's
Mhm.
been ruthless as a businesswoman and messed over some of his players over the years.
Big
That's all
time.
I'll say about that. But she was great in getting Randy Rhoads to be the guitar player, Jakey Lee is the guitar player, Zach Wilde is the guitar player, other members of the band in the orbit. And he's had a great solo career. Now, I know we disagree on this, Joseph, but I looked this up. Ozzy Osbourne has placed 40 songs on the Billboard mainstream rock charts over the last 40 plus years, which is a lot of chart action. I know not on the Hot 100, which I know
Mhm.
you live by, but ever since I was a kid, I used to buy Billboard magazine religiously from like 1980, 81 on. They started the mainstream rock chart, the rock charts, whatever you want to call it, in 81. And I used to love getting Billboard to look at that chart and study that chart and see what the New York City radio stations were playing. And I
Mhm.
first came across Ozzy. I knew the two songs that they used to play on the radio stations from Sabbath, Paranoid and Iron Man. That was really it. But then when the debut solo album came out, they started playing the songs, and they even played songs from the second album, Diary of a Madman. So that's when I went out and bought the first two solo albums. I didn't have older siblings or friends who were into metal, like you know who had the big metal fans, metal group
Mhm.
of friends, and they all got into stuff. I found this stuff on my own and through rock radio at the time. So that was my introduction to Ozzy with the Blizzard of Oz album in 1980 and the follow up Diary of a Madman in 81. And I've been a fan ever since. I saw him live in concert once, and it was the No More Tears tour, or the No More Tours tour, as they called it back then, because he was retiring, but he didn't retire back then. And he is like the heavy metal version of Keith Richards. He just keeps going and going, no matter what happens to him. And I've rambled on a little long,
Yeah.
so I'll stop it there. What was
Well,
your introduction to Ozzy?
well, going back to what you just said there to cap off on you, yeah, I mean, when they announced it was going to be the No More Tears tour, I knew it wasn't the end. It was just way too soon for that to happen at that point. I actually seen not sure if I saw one or two shows on that tour because they did like an arena leg and then they came back in the summertime and did like a one out at our Darien Lake Amphitheater, the old, small old one, and I remember seeing them there. I can't quite remember for sure, but anyhow, I would say the good old Two for Tuesday. That was what our local radio station used to do. They kind of stopped it now after all these years. Hard to believe. Just a few years ago, they used to do Two for Tuesday. They play two songs from an artist, and first two songs that I ever heard were basically Crazy Train and think was Flying High again. They played them back to back
Hmm,
on a two for Tuesday, and I was hooked. So
nice.
never got to see him though. We were trying to push my. We were young. We could, it's not like we could drive at that point, but we tried to have our dad take us to Diary of a Madman tour, and I knew that wasn't going to work out, unfortunately. So we were unable to see that tour. But I'll tell you, that would have been something to be able to see that. But I was able to finally see the Oz. It was 1988, I believe. It was on the No Rest for the Wicked tour finally, but by that point he had Zach Wild, so I
Yep.
never got to see Jake play with them, but I did see Jake play with Badlands, so
Nice.
that was pretty cool.
Love that record.
Yeah. And I seen Jake in his new band maybe about 5, 6 years ago he came here. Um,
Red Dragon Cartel.
yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, so that's my introduction to Ozzy and I would say I'm not really a big fan of his later career. I would say after the pretty much, even though um No More Tears was a big album for him, I think that album was just overkill big time on our radio stations here. And I really didn't get into that album, as much as you would think being an Ozzy fan. I don't know why that was. I still don't. I mean, I just don't think the songs on the album are nothing that really stuck with me, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big Zach Wild fan, let's be honest.
Okay.
Good guitarist, but not for Ozzy in my estimation. I mean, the album before it, No Rest for the Wicked, that's kind of where you start to see where I started to go, down a little bit. I just for some reason he just didn't do it for me. And that's pretty much where Ozzy kind of dipped for me. He came back up a little later on for me, and then after that he kind of leveled itself off. But um, that's my take on how I got into Ozzy. So there you have it. So let's dig right in. Let's start off with our usual honorable mentions. What's your take on the honorable mentions? What do you got for us?
Okay, I have a few more than usual because I had over 30 songs on my list, and that was being conservative. I probably could have listed over 50, but narrowing down 30 to 10 songs was impossible. So I have five honorable mentions. I'll go through them as fast as I can. Starting off at 15, the title track to the 83 album, Bark at the Moon, number 19 on the Billboard charts, triple platinum album. And this song, the title track, was number 12 on the mainstream rock charts for 13 weeks. 4 minute song. I love Jakey Lee's guitar playing on this song, Ozzy's vocals, and the great ending. And that werewolf video. Great song, Bark at the Moon. Next up, I picked this particular song to represent all his B-sides. He has a lot of cool B-sides to singles. Some of them are on records, some aren't on the remasters. This song was on an album you just mentioned from 1988, 2 times platinum. This was an unlisted bonus track called Hero. It's a little under 5 minutes. This LP went to number 13 on the charts. And this song represents Ozzy's melodic Beatlesque side. Sorry. Zach Wild on guitar. He had John Sinclair on keyboards, who does some great work. And this song represents all the B-sides like Spiders, You Said It All. He's got a lot of good ones you should check out. Moving on to number 13. This is probably my favorite Ozzy ballad because he's a big Beatles fan, loves doing at least one ballad on every album. Little under 6 minutes for this song from the triple platinum album, Diary of a Madman, Tonight from 1981, number 16 album. This was the third single from the album. It didn't chart, but Randy Rhoads' guitar work, especially the outro solo on this song, is spectacular. So Tonight's at lucky number 13. Moving on to number 12 from Osmosis, 1995. Also just a hair under 6 minutes. Double platinum album, number 4 LP on the charts. And this song was number 3 on the Billboard mainstream rock chart for 23 weeks. Zach Wilde, Geezer Butler on bass. Excellent bass work on this song. Dean Castronovo from Journey on drums. And Rick Wakeman from Yes, my favorite band on Mellotron on this song. I wrote down that it's proggy, froggy, and groggy. And that bass line from Geezer Butler, the guitar work from Zach Wilde, Perry Mason, number 12. Moving on to the debut album, Blizzard of Oz, little over 6 minutes from 1980. 5 times platinum, this record. Number 21 in America. The proggy mini epic, spotlighting Randy Rhoads on guitar. Revelation, Mother Earth. And Don Airey's keyboards on here. We got some vocoder action, which is probably Don Airey, but it's not credited. And just the guitar work of Randy Rhoads on the classical guitar and the electric guitar, the way he mixes it, spectacular. Shame we lost him. So those are my honorable mentions. The last one, number 11, Revelation, Mother Earth.
All right, very good. Yeah, I don't think well, maybe one of those songs you'll hear about a little later.
Okay.
So we're going to start off our honorable mentions here with something from the Bark at the Moon album. And that song is going to be Now You See It, Now You Don't. Yeah, Now You See It, Now You Don't. One of the few songs that the radio stations played from the new album. I mean, that album in our area, I don't know how it was in yours, but there's only 2 songs they ever played consistently on that album, and that was the title track, obviously, and So Tired.
Same here.
For some reason, no one they didn't really touch it much. I did hear Now You See It, Now You Don't very vaguely a few times, but obviously I heard it a lot more when I bought the cassette, and that's how I got into that song. It's definitely one of the standouts on Bark at the Moon. So that's my number 13. My number 12, we are going back to the album prior, and we are going to the title track, Diary of a Madman. Yeah, interesting song. Interesting song. I really the whole album is interesting, but that song, for some reason, for me, it struck a chord listening to that, listening to the lyrics, and just a great album. A great song, great album. And that's my number 12. And number 11, we're going back to Bark at the Moon for listening for the bell. Center of Eternity. Great song off of Bark at the Moon. Was that on your long list of 50 or whatever it was? We find out.
We'll
All
have to
right.
see.
But that's just a great solo on there. Definitely puts it right in that same Ozzy mode with the darkness, the mystery, the bells tolling, all fits in perfect with his image. Classic song, and that's where it is at number 11, Center of Eternity. And those are my honorable mentions.
Okay, I'm going to move on to my number 10 and 9. My number 10 song from the Triple Platinum album, Diary of a Madman. A little under 5 minutes. This was number 2 on the modern rock charts in Billboard for 25 weeks. It was the first single from the album. I definitely heard this on the radio. The drums by Lee Kerslake on here, who was in Uriah Heep, and Bob Daisley, who wrote most of Ozzy's lyrics on all the records he plays on. The bass and drums on this song are great. And those Randy Rhoads guitar riffs, wow, just amazing. Flying High Again is my number 10. His solos and the speed and the dexterity of Randy Rhoads, such a shame that we never got to see what would have happened with him. He probably would have gone on to be even more revered than he is now in the metal community. Number 10 is one you mentioned, little over 5 minutes from Bark at the Moon, Center of Eternity. Exquisite keyboard intro by the return of Don Airey on this album. And at the beginning is a little reminiscent to me of Mr. Crowley from the debut album, which also featured Don Airey on keyboards. Nice guitar work from Jake on this song, And the drums from Tommy Aldrich from Black Oak, Arkansas, from Whitesnake, of course, another journeyman drummer who's been around forever, played with Pat Travers and zillions of people. So that's my number 10, Flying High again. Number 9, Center of Eternity, with the great intro, like you said, with the bells and the orchestral keyboards. Excellent song. Good deep track. Really good deep track.
Yeah. Awesome. Yep. Totally agree on that. All right. So my number 10 is going to be a song that you already mentioned. And we're going to go Barking at the Moon. Ha 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 ha. Bark at the
Oh,
Moon. Yep. Not too much more to say about that song other than the first time I heard it, I knew Ozzy had a winner on the album. I just had a feeling, even though you look back on it now and you go, why wasn't this album bigger than what it was? Think about it. I mean, we just talked about how many songs. I had two in the honorable mentions, and now I got this song. Jakey Lee had big shoes to fill, but man, I thought he did a phenomenal job. I mean, you don't want to copy or mimic the guy you're replacing, and he far from did that. He kind of created his own tone and his own thing, and Ozzy grew in popularity because of it. Let's be honest,
yeah, the
you know.
album was triple platinum, so it sold very well.
Sold very well, but it just never really got all the airplay that you would think from a triple platinum album. But hey, a couple good songs, you put them out there, reached though even though they didn't reach the top 100, like you said, if they were on even the mainstream rock chart, there's people are still hearing it and listening to it, or it wouldn't be on that chart. So that helped propel the album big time. And of course, the touring, you got to remember on that tour, he had Motley Crue and Wasted with him. So it was a great package to go out on the road and promote the album as well. That was when
Yeah,
Motley Crue first started out. That was their first big tour.
when they were still really good. First couple of albums, first two.
Yep. So that's probably what really helped it too. All right, and then for my number 9, we're gonna dig back to another Jakey Lee cut. Man, this guy is all over my board here, at least right now. Um, We're going to go into the Ultimate Sin album and we are going to pull out Killer of Giants. Just a great, great song, one that just doesn't get its just due these days. I do hear this one every now and then. I've heard it like in the past 2 weeks. I probably heard it 3 times on Sirius Radio, believe it or not,
Oh,
on
okay.
on
Satellite,
either on Ozzy's Boneyard or possibly definitely on I did hear it on Hair Nation maybe twice too. So I mean, it's getting some love out there. I mean, you look back on it, it kind of fits what's going on in the world today if you listen to the lyrics. And then maybe that's why the song is kind of making a comeback. Um, just another shows you sometimes it's like when you write a song of the moment, sometimes it just that moment could either go away and then it could come back again. And that's pretty much what this if you listen to the lyrics and understand the meaning of the song, that's exactly what this one did for sure. And it never got really any love on the radio. I don't know what it did on any charts or anything, but I never heard it on our local radio station ever. It's just from buying the album and playing it, that's track just stood out right to me right there so much that here we are some 40 years later and then it's on my top 10, amazing because I never would have thought that before when I started to do, this list. I figured it might be an honorable mention, but number 9, that's what I got, Killer of Giants. So Bark at the Moon 10, Killer of Giants 9, and let's see what you got cooking here for us with 8 and 7.
Number 8, 4.5 minutes long, from Diary of a Madman, 1981. This one reached number 38 on
Mm.
the mainstream rock charts. It was there for 8 weeks, and that great drum intro by Lee Kearsley from Uriah Heep in this band. I think he's doing a fast set of triplets at the beginning. It's really great. Randy Rhoads guitar playing, his soloing. You get the vocoder again, and it's just a power rock song. Over the Mountain. Love that
Hmm.
song.
Oh
Definitely
yeah.
heard that on the radio back in the day. That's my number 8. Number 7, the title track to the No More Tears album from 91. 7.5 minutes long. record was 4 times platinum, number 7 on the Billboard charts, and this track on the mainstream rock chart, number 10 and it was on the chart for 24 weeks. I call this a proggy mini epic. Zakk Wylde's great guitar playing, Bob Daisley on bass on No More Tears. What a bass line. And mostly he did the lyrics for Ozzy. Let's call a spade a spade. Great lyric writer, songwriter. Randy Castillo, the late one on drums, who also played with Motley Crue for a brief time. And John Sinclair on the keyboards. They all shine here. And John Sinclair, who was also in Uriah Heep in the early 80s, he just did a really good interview on my friend Peter Kerr's channel, Rock Daydream Nation. It's an hour-long interview with John Sinclair. Talks about his time with Uriah Heep and Ozzy. He's very blunt, and he has some great rock and roll stories, so seek that out. No More Tears is my number 7. Number 8, Over the Mountain.
All right. Well, let's see if mine match yours in stamina here. Number 8 for me. This is actually coming from a later album, believe it or not. And it's probably the only later song on this whole list here for me. But we are going back to 2001, I believe, for Dreamer, the great ballad. Just a great song. I love the lyrics and how heartfelt Ozzy makes it sound when he's singing it. Obviously, that's from the Down to Earth album, which peaked at number 4, and it actually went platinum. It's the last Ozzy solo album to make platinum. Down to Earth, and I saw that tour, and he did the Christmas Mayhem tour or whatever it was called at that time with Rob Zombie and Soil, and he had a bunch of bands on the bill. And yeah, it was a very good tour, and the song definitely got some airplay up here. This was back in 2001, so it was good to see Oz kind of make a comeback because that was 6 years in between albums at that point. You
Long
know, it,
time.
not counting any cover albums or whatever he'd released, but an actual studio album from Osmosis, 6 years. So, yep. So that's my number 8, Dreamer. Just a great ballad, like I mentioned. And number 7, that keyboard intro, Mr. Crowley. Was surprised that this one actually made my list. I don't know. Always liked the song. But then when I started going through the list and matching up the songs here, I said, wow, this song is, I was surprised myself. It went so high, but it definitely deserves its spot. There's no doubt about it. Definitely a great song. And, I'm not a big fan of the first album as some people are. I'm a fan of it, don't get me wrong, but I know some people are like true diehards on that album. But for me, there's a lot more filler on the first Ozzy solo album compared to the second one. That's why I always like the second one better. But Mr. Crowley definitely is far from any. That's just a great song, and there you got it. Dreamer 8, Mr. Crowley 7.
Okay, which is funny because my number 6, Mr. Crowley, 5 minutes from 1980, number 21 album, 5 times platinum. Randy Rhoads' guitar playing shines here, especially his shredding solos I wrote. And that great eerie, airy keyboard intro, Don Airey, now of Deep Purple fame, and he's just a journeyman from the late 60s, early 70s on, played with so many people,
Oh,
and does great work on the debut Ozzy album and the third one, Bark at the Moon. Great keyboards. Of course, he was with Rainbow. Coliseum, I think he played with one of the Coliseums, or maybe Coliseum 2, whatever. But Mr. Crowley is a great song. That great intro. Love it, love it, love it. That's my number 6. Number 5, I'm going to go to No Rest for the Wicked. 6.5 minutes. Double platinum album from 88. Bob Daisley on bass, Zakk Wylde on guitar, John Sinclair again on keyboards here, and that great Bob Daisley bass line. Zakk's guitars and solos, Fire in the Sky. Love that song. Another mini prog epic in Ozzy's canon. Sinclair's keyboards are great, and Ozzy just the icing on the great cake. I love Fire in the Sky, epic song, mini epic. It's proggy, and a lot of my Ozzy picks and Sabbath picks too, for that matter, which we're not doing today, are proggy, prog rock type songs. Fire in the Sky at 5, Crowley at 6.
All right, very good. Yeah, some some deep cuts there, and interesting how you mentioned that one. It almost made my list, but it just couldn't because how I like these other songs. But yeah, that song was interesting. I got to see Ozzy on that tour, and it must have took him a long time to learn the lyrics because they were performing that song live for a while, but you could tell he was kept on looking down during it, reading some kind of a teleprompter. Very interesting on that one because, well, it's a long song, so I can see where maybe a couple times maybe he just lost his place or something, and he just wanted to make sure he was singing it properly. But I that's one image I still remember from that particular show because I was kind of like right on the side of the right near the stage where I can see what he was doing. But great song. No, good choice. I mean, like I said, if I had the room for it, it would have been on my list. But
Thanks.
that's definitely the best track off that album by a mile. There's no comparison.
I agree.
All right, so that is your number 6 and 5, and mine. We're really getting down to the good stuff now for me. Yeah, the real nitty gritty here. Number 6, I am going to dig into that first solo album
Okay.
and Blizzard of Oz, and we are going to dig into Steal Away the Night. I've just
Oh,
always
nice.
loved this song. It's such a probably the fastest song in the whole Ozzy catalog, I would have to say. The way Rhodes rips through the with the guitar on that song and Ozzy sings it right along, man. That's one of the best songs by a mile, and the way that the vocals come in and like you said the lyrics there you said Daisley wrote most of the lyrics on the first good portion of his Ozzy's albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steal Away the Night has always been one of those highlights for me with that, especially with that first album. So that's what I got at number 6. And number 5, we are going to the Diary of a Madman one more time, and we are pulling out Sato. Yeah, not Bay City Rollers. This is Sato. Any idea what that stands for?
No. I think I once knew, but I forgot.
I don't know. I was trying to do some research on it, and it doesn't really break it down much. So I don't know. So I'll just leave it. If somebody has knows exactly what it stands for, please, by all means, leave a comment
You,
and tell us.
you want me to call Mr. PP and ask him?
No,
Hello,
no,
Mr. PP. What does that stand for? It's a
just an interest.
joke.
Yeah, very interesting song though. Regardless, it's always been one that stood out for me. Never expect. I figured that would have been an honorable mention, but when I was just matching up song after song, I just could not put that song any lower. It landed right at number 5. Just a great song, and that's what makes these lists great because it's a song that many might not even know or pay much attention to. When you got all these other
Yeah.
ones that you know, it's definitely not a common song in the Ozzy catalog. Let's put it that way. Never, I don't think it was ever performed live, and it's just one of those songs that you know, people radio never touched it, unless they're playing the full album, doing like the complete album side. We used to one of our radio stations used to play every Sunday night, they'd play 6 albums in its entirety, both sides, late overnight from 12 to 6.
Okay.
Very
So
interesting though.
they couldn't
Yeah.
get in trouble that way. Two deep cuts in a row. Good for you, Jack.
Yes.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So that's what I got. 6 Steal Away the Night, 5 SATO. And now let's see what Mr. Cretin is gonna surprise us with here.
A song you mentioned earlier. Any of my top four almost could flip order, basically. There's so many great songs.
Hmm.
It's really hard to list them. It could change a few days, few weeks, months, whatever from now. The title track to Diary of a Madman, over 6 minutes long, from 1981. That intro and outro from Randy Rhoads, amazing. What could have been? Lewis Clark, best known for working with ELO and ELO Part 2 and the orchestra, does the string arrangements on here. Another amazing Ozzy proggy mini epic I wrote down. Title track, You Cannot Deny It. I know a lot of people would list it at number one, but today it is my number four, Diary of a Madman. Number three, going back to an album you seem to love, Bark
Hmm.
at the Moon from '83. The last track on the American version, but not on the British version.
Hmm.
Little over 5 minutes, Waiting for Darkness.
Hmm.
Love this song. Bob Daisley's churning bass line, Don Airey's keyboards, Jakey Lee's guitar. Probably my favorite Ozzy deep track. Love his vocals on here. Highly recommended the song Waiting for Darkness, another deep track. Lewis Clark on string arrangements once again. And Jakey Lee's solo is quite exquisite and excellent on this song. So Waiting for Darkness at three. Number four, Diary of a Madman.
Wow, that's really low for that's a rare, really rare cut there for sure. Never would have expected that one to be on your list, especially that low at least.
I always love that song. Always my favorite from the record. Or maybe it's not. Let's see.
Definitely a good song, no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to mention a song from my number four that you already mentioned. It was a song that got a lot of airplay up here in Buffalo, New York when the album came out. It was one of the first songs they would play. And you still hear it around today. And he was playing it live, I believe, on the last tour. None other than Flying High Again. Just a great song. You mentioned it already. What number was it for you?
Flying High was number 10.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't know. That song is just one of those great songs. You hear it, you just don't get sick of it. Just a great Ozzy song, and love it. Just love it. So that's what I got for my number four. Number three, we're gonna stick with the same album, and we're gonna start off with none other than the lead off track. And you know what that is. We're going over the mountain. What a great album kickoff right there. And then you go into Flying High again. I mean, this album had it all. It still has. I would have to say, even though it's probably time to do like a solid top 10 albums of all time episode for me. I would have to say that the album, if it's not on there, I'd be shocked now.
Wow.
Yeah,
High
that's
praise.
that's a great way to put it. I would be shocked, but yeah, Over the Mountain, just really a great song that kicks off the whole album in fine style. Always loved it. And it's a shame that Ozzy really didn't touch that album much in concert after Randy passed away. I don't know if it was because, he was still taken aback by everything, or if it was hard to perform some of these songs live. I don't know.
A little, probably.
Yeah. But anyhow,
And
Over the
it's the
Mountain.
memories. The memories may be associated with the album and the tour and how distraught he was afterwards.
Yeah. Because I believe on that tour after that happened and the next tour or whenever they picked it back up again, whatever the case was, he started playing a lot more Sabbath to kind of fill in the void there. And he wasn't really
Into the
doing.
Void. Good Sabbath reference. You didn't even catch that. What happened was after Randy died, they took a break for 2 weeks. Bernie Marsden, best known for playing with Whitesnake and
Hmm.
Trapeze, if memory serves, played
Yep.
for a little while. Then he left. And then they got Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, who did the tour. And that's when they played all the old Sabbath songs. But Brad Gillis was also capable of doing the Randy Rhoads stuff. But then he went back to Night Ranger, and that's how Jakey Lee made his way into the band, who was almost in Rat, but wasn't at the time. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No, that was good information for sure.
Thanks.
So there you have it. Flying High again, number four, Over the Mountain, number three, and can't wait to see what you got for number two and number one. Are you gonna surprise us once more?
Yes, definitely. That's a great 1-2 punch, which I did not mention. The way both those tracks just boom, boom. One of the best 1-2 punches in metal, easily.
Yep.
Number two for me was a song I heard on rock radio back in the day, 7 minutes long. The record hit number 16, triple platinum. This particular song from 1981 was number 41 on the Billboard mainstream rock charts for 13 weeks. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. I have always loved this song. Ozzy, Randy Rhoads, Bob Daisley, Lee Kearslake, all I wrote down all add up their playing prowess to make this a top tier tune in Ozzy's catalog for me. Heard it on New York Rock Radio. An uncredited guy by the name of Johnny Cook, whom I never heard of before, plays keyboards on this album. But Bob Daisley on bass on this song and Randy Rhoads guitar. Always one of my favorite Ozzy songs. You Can't Kill Rock and Roll from Diary of a Madman at my number two. Moving on to my favorite Ozzy song, and I'm dedicating this one to my new friend, young Logan Collins from Slogan's Rock and Metal Extravaganza channel. Joseph, they are doing a series on Triumph now that you should check out. They just started, and I will be appearing on their channel later on, probably early in the new year. But this is for you, young Logan. My favorite Ozzy song from your favorite Ozzy album, The Ultimate Sin. And it could only be the mini prog epic, Killer of Giants.
Hmm.
Love that friggin' song. Definitely my favorite Ozzy song for years. The best track to me, I know people's opinions differ, from The Ultimate Sin, 1986, double platinum record. Record reached number 6. Jakey Lee on guitar, Phil Susan on bass, Randy Castillo on drums, and Mike Moran on keyboards here. And I love the interplay between Jake's acoustic electric guitar at the beginning and Mike Moran's keyboards. Another proggy mini epic. So I have a type, so to speak, in music here. And I put that it harkens back to the Randy Rhoads era. Love the intro. And this, like you hinted at, Ozzy had a lot of anti-war songs, or he had Bob Daisley or Geezer write anti-war lyrics because Ozzy is a man of peace, believe it or not. And this was an anti-nuclear war song at the time, the Cold War, like you were alluding to, 1986, the Reagan era. It was all, that's what was going on back then. There's a lot of songs in hard rock and metal and rock and roll that are anti-war songs. Lyrics by Bob Daisley, even though he does not play on the album, he co-wrote all the lyrics, wrote them, whatever.
Hmm.
And Jakey Lee's guitar solo, his playing, love the ending of the song too. It comes to that hard stop at the end. Killer of Giants, my favorite Ozzy song. And number 2 was You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. So those are my
Right.
top 2, sir.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, interesting. Going back to what we were talking about real quick before we move on to my number one and two, it was Bernie Torme.
Ah, wrong
That
Bernie.
was yeah. But that's fine. I mean, that's you were definitely more closer than I would have guessed. But I just wanted to correct ourselves so before we get everybody playing
Thank you.
basting us with that, who
Even the
sadly
great ones make mistakes. Sorry about that.
you had the
Sorry about
first
that, Chief.
name, you had the
Missed it
first
by
name
that
right.
much. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, sadly he passed away in 2019. I just read on that one, so I was kind of saddened to hear that. But he did take over for a little while, and then when he left, that's like you said, Brad Gillis stepped right in, and there we have it, history. All right, so my number two is going back to the 1986 album, Ultimate Sin, for my number two song, which is none other than Shot in the Dark. Always loved this song. Just a great song. It beats Killer of Giants to me barely as the best song on the album. But it's nice to see that this album got represented at least in both our lists here.
Very high.
And yeah, I mean, Shot in the Dark number two, and that's the only track on the album that was co-written with Ozzy and Phil Sassoon, which is weird because he didn't come in until the recording kind of started or near the tail end. Because if you look at the credits, Bob Daisley started writing the album, but then he
Yep.
left before they actually got into the recording studio. And that's why he doesn't play bass on the album, obviously. Um, and then I don't know, this song must have been something I would say Phil probably brought in with him,
Yes.
and the rest is history. But just a great song. Ozzy heard that song and he wanted that song and he got that song and they recorded it. And it remains one of the best Ozzy songs in his whole catalog by a good shot there. And number one.
Before we go on to your number one,
Ah,
if I could just interject for 1 second
yeah, yeah,
about that song,
yeah.
Sharon screwed Phil S. over because she kept that record out of print in America for years
Hmm.
so he wouldn't get songwriting royalties off it because it was a song that he brought into the band, like you said. So for a long time, at least a decade plus, back when I was in the music stores, you could only get the Ultimate Sin as a European import or a Canadian import because in America it was not available on CD for a long, long time.
Well, I know they remastered the catalog in '95, but that was the last time they remastered it, I think, until the controversy when they re-recorded Diary of a Madman with different people on there. Remember that whole
And the
fiasco?
debut, yeah, the first two
Yeah.
records.
What a joke that was.
Oh yeah,
What a way to almost ruin tarnish his legacy there by you don't touch a recording that Randy Rhoads played on. You just don't touch it.
that was all Sharon, and she
Oh
took
yeah.
the bass and drums off of
Yep.
Daisley and Lee Kerslake, and she substituted them with Mike Borden from
Uh,
Faith No More, and geez,
thought it
who
was
the heck
whoever
was
was in the band at the time, I believe.
yeah, I can't remember the bass player, but definitely Mike Puffy
I think it
from
was.
Faith No More.
Let me see that album. Let's
I should
see.
know this.
Yeah, here's the controversy here. Yeah, so it was Robert Trujillo on.
Now in Metallica from Suicidal
Yep,
Tendencies.
and you
Yep.
said Mike Borden. Yeah, so those two were the ones that were put in on its place.
And you
And
could tell
then
right away. You put it on. What the heck is that?
yeah, it says they were passing the blame kind of back and forth. She tried blaming it on Ozzy at first. Ozzy denied it, and then said his wife just snapped and had it done without his knowledge, which sounds more like the fact, as we all know how Sharon can be. So I believe Ozzy when he said that. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if she passes before he does, would love to see a true book come out he,
It
where
would
he
be
would
interesting.
tell it like it really happened, because he can't do that now. It would never fly, sadly. But all right, so without further ado, let's get that drum roll going. We are going with the number one all-time great Ozzy song. You had it on your list. It was very, very high on your list. It's going back to, of course, Diary of a Madman. And this song is what rock and roll is all about. You can't kill rock and roll, baby. You just can't kill it.
Nice.
Just the best Ozzy song, period. That was one of the first Ozzy songs I ever heard, and I just always loved it. And I guess I'm kind of glad that it wasn't overplayed, or I still would have loved to seen it live. That would have been great to see that, even a shorter version playing it live would have really been cool to see. I don't know why he never really touched that song. That's just a great, great song. And pretty much sums up everything. Randy Rhoads died, but you still can't kill rock and roll, baby.
Yep.
Um, that guitar work on there is just impeccable, for a very slow song, a nice slow moving song. And yeah, Ozzy sings it perfectly. And yeah, I just love it. And I believe you had it at number two, so you're with me on that.
Yes, sir.
We're in the same boat. We both agree how great this song is, and it's definitely just a fantastic song, no doubt about it. So there you have it. My number two, Shot in the Dark. My number one, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. And I am surprised only one song on both our lists from my dreaded album, No More Tears. So I am very happy because I didn't know if you were going to pick Tinker Train or any of those ballads, Mama, I'm Coming Home, or any of that garbage. I just can't get into those songs that much at all.
I had Mr. Tinker Train on my larger list and the B-sides. Don't Blame Me and Party with the Animals, because we played that CD to death when I worked at Titus Oaks. We played No More Tears a lot, not just me, but my coworkers at the time. So I got a little burned out on the record, but I just love that title track. Easily my favorite from the record.
Yeah, so yeah, I was glad. I mean, I don't know if that's going to irk a lot of people or if a lot of people are going to agree, that we did a good job on picking our choices. I
You know
hope
what?
it's
I'm sorry, continue.
I was gonna say, I hope it's the latter that they just like our choices. But yeah, go
Not,
ahead.
neither one of us mentioned the two big hits from the debut album. I thought you'd have those, but you picked some
No,
nice deep tracks.
no. You can only hear Crazy Train so much. I mean, it's one of those songs you're gonna hear at if you go to a hockey game or something. They're always playing that stuff in the background. And
Yep.
now, don't get me wrong. It's not. There's a couple songs I'll give you. Obviously, I think I did an episode on this. Some of the songs I'm just sick of hearing. Obviously, Pour Some Sugar on Me is one of them. You hear it everywhere you go. A couple Guns N' Roses tracks is the same. I'm in the same vein with Crazy Train. Not really there with that song, but it's just I just feel that I like these other songs better. Regardless of with Randy playing on Crazy Train and everything. Um, I didn't even consider Crazy Train. There's no way, at least at this point in time in my life, that any of these songs. I did have I Don't Know on my short list. It just got knocked off because I like these other songs better. And those are the two you were referring to, I'm guessing.
And they're both on my larger list here. I Don't Know and Crazy Train. The first two, actually. I Don't Know, Crazy
Well,
Train.
that's how the first two songs on the album. You just went through the album and started making your
Yep,
list, which
listing
I do.
everything.
I do the same way too. So we
It's
think
another
alike.
great 1-2 punch, but a little overplayed compared to the two from Diary of a Madman.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, well, this was a great episode. Thank you for coming aboard and doing it with me. It's been a pleasure listening to all your choices there. And I'm not sure how many songs we actually agreed on this time, but there's
A
more
bunch,
than
actually,
normal. Yeah, more than normal. Um,
surprisingly.
let's see if I can
One, two, three, four, five,
maybe eight.
six. Yeah, about 7 or 8. That's surprisingly high. Wow.
Yeah, and it probably didn't feel
Interesting.
like it too much from the fan perspective, anybody watching this, because we all had them spread throughout our list pretty nicely. So it wasn't like I mean, I think the closest we came was You Can't Kill Rock and Roll
Yep,
one
two
and
and
two.
one flipped.
And then I think we had a flip between My Mr. Crowley and Your Mr. Crowley, because I think you were six, I think, and I was
Yes,
seven.
and you were okay.
Yeah.
That was it.
So other than that, we pretty much had different,
Spread out.
yeah, which was good to see. I mean, we've done some album rankings. I don't remember if you were on any of them with us where the albums were similar in the rankings just because that's where they fell because that's how some if you got a small catalog, you got a better chance of that happening. When you're ranking an album as opposed to trying to do the Rolling Stones, which someday we'll attempt.
Oh,
It's
oh
going to be a
dear
fun
me.
one.
That's a
Just
long catalog.
just an example. Just an example.
Hey, I want to promote your channel for a second because I looked the other day and you had a brand new video, top 10 songs of Wasp, the band Wasp, the metal band with Blackie Lawless in the lead position. And I put on the video and I saw my friend John Clauser from My Music Corner on your channel. Hooray! Worlds are colliding. Excellent. That was very cool and a nice surprise. So if you guys are fans of Wasp, check out Joey's video here on Rock Show Critique. Top 10 songs of Wasp with Johnny Clauser. Johnny Metal, the metal dad.
Yeah, we actually just got done doing a bunch of Wasp stuff. It worked out perfectly because they're out on the road right now in America. So if you get a chance to see them, they'll be in Atlanta, Georgia tomorrow night. Just to let you know, Wednesday the 27th. Um, yeah, just a great guy. Had him on, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode if you haven't watched it yet, but please give it a listen if you're a Wasp fan, even if you're just a casual Wasp fan, because I think
Like
you'll
me.
you'll learn a lot just listening to my guest. He's very knowledgeable with Wasp. More knowledgeable than me, I'll admit. He Wasp is like you know like I like some bands. That's how much he really likes Wasp,
Yeah,
and he
he's
know
very passionate, his favorite band. And he did a great series on them on his channel, My Music Corner. So check it out, everyone.
definitely. All right. Well, what do you got coming up for your channel? Anything spoilers or any guest appearances that you're going to be popping up to let people know about?
Yes, my good buddy Bicycle Legs from Australia will be coming on soon, and we will be ranking our favorite songs from one of the biggest progressive rock bands, and that's all I will say for now. And it's not Yes, because I know you and I did Yes. It's not Yes, and that's all I'll say. Tia and I, my better half, Tia, we are going to be starting a series on an 80s, let's call them a new wave rock band. They started in the early 80s. They're still around today. They've never broken up. They have 10 studio albums. We are going to do a deep dive on that band.
When you say
And
deep dive, what do you mean by that to let people know at home?
we're going to do an album study. The first album 1 month, the second album another month, going through all 10 albums. And
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm fixing to tell you who they are, but I think I'm going to keep it a secret for now.
Ah, no,
And
no, it gives them a chance to people to, if they're curious, they're going to go over to your channel and watch it.
Cretin Classics, Cretin Classics on YouTube. That's where I'm from. And I have a lot of progressive rock content on my channel recently from Dream Theater, Renaissance. Did a great favorite songs from Queensryche on there. Just did an IQ ranking on there, which is doing very well for my channel. I'm very happy with that. My friend Bicycle Legs was on there from Australia, whom I mentioned. And the great Todd Evans. Sorry, Todd Evans, who's on Rock Daydream Nation a lot, Bicycle Legs channel, The Contrarians. He was on there too, so that was a great show. So that's what's going on Cretin Classics. A lot of
Okay.
metal, prog rock. So,
Very
and
good. Very good.
I still have to do my foreigner ranking too. I got to get to that.
But if you want to catch a foreigner ranking, you can check out ours. We did one top 10 songs just a couple weeks ago. I believe it was the last video that we did.
Yes,
So
definitely.
definitely check that one out. It's doing pretty good there, and a lot of people are liking that one. That's Foreigner, the recently enshrined into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band Foreigner. And yeah, so a lot of great things coming now that it's winter time here in New York State. Um, there should be a lot more stuff coming up down the road. We'll have Mr. Cretin on again in the very near future in another episode down the road. You'll see other cohorts like Tom Jennings and Mr. David Hens. Um, who knows? You might see all four of us together again, maybe down the road. It's been a while. We're gonna try to get everybody together, possibly. Schedules don't always help out, but we do our best. And yeah, we got a bunch of things planned, so stay tuned. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We got to get that subscribe button hit. This way you won't miss an episode. The subscription will automatically pop up and let you know when there's a new video on any of our channels. So
And put your favorite Ozzy songs down in the comments. We want to see which ones you love.
even if they are from No More Tears. Okay.
Oh
All
goodness.
right, folks.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.